I'm now in Porto Alegre, which is one of the biggest cities in southern Brazil, and I'm right here in the historical centre. Now, when you think about the historical centres of most cities, you think quiet streets, lots of historic buildings, but this is full of traffic, modern buildings, and loads of people. But I'm right outside the town hall with a fountain in front of it. Really hard to find anything in English about the history of Porto Alegre, but I will do my best. So this place here. So I've moved into the shade because today is a hot one. I can feel the sun on my skin. But this is Paco Municipal. It has been running the city since the late 1800s. It is still today the town hall. It's a working building. I don't think I'll be allowed into it. There's a lot of people in the shade, keeping out the sun. As I said, there is a lot of modern buildings around. But the history of Porto Alegre. The city itself was founded in the mid 1700s by Portuguese settlers brought in over from the Azores. And the reason it exists is purely strategic. This was a frontier city on the edge of Spanish and Portuguese influence. Now behind me is the main rivers, and with rivers meant trade, defence, and Portugal wanted it. Now we're heading towards the main market, which has survived fires, floods, and it still stands today. And I'm just going to try and get into it. The town hall does look modern-ish. Now so far, walking around, I've been stopped by a few people asking for money. So, although I do feel safe, I'm a big boy now, it has got still that frontier mentality, I think. Right, let's have a look, wander into the market itself. Well, it looks a lot more modern than what I thought it'd be. I was expecting lots of stalls, not champagne. I suppose this is where the magic of the market is now. I mean, for a Friday afternoon, it's quite busy. There's the centre. And there's a lot of security around. Nice. I suppose you can get up there somehow. It looks like it's all cafes. Oh, that was short. Oh. Well, it was a quick trip through. I was expecting it to be a bit bigger. Straight out to the bus station. Right, I need to dig deeper, find the proper history. So I'm going to walk through the other end, back in. I'm back outside, market behind me, and I'm guessing that if it had survived all these fires and the floods, then it makes sense that they've modernised it more and more. I mean, according to the map, I'm still in the historical side. Yeah. I mean, how far they're going back for history? Like, cross this road quick, and I'm gonna head down that way. So I've come further down from where the market was, down there, and now there is historical buildings. However, I have looked on my offline maps, and there is so much confusion along with organic maps and Google Maps, because I haven't got a clue what these are. There is meant to be a square just down there. First city I've been to where I have actually been very confused at what places are, and the fact there is no signs even in Portuguese to say what buildings are. In the 1800s, this region was probably one of the most rebellious states within Brazil. During the Ragamuffin War, which I have covered in an earlier vlog, they tried to have a breakaway republic which lasted a couple of years, but Porto Alegre stayed faithful to Brazil. Now, once they started later on getting more industrialized, the city grew fast, and it filled up with migrants from Europe and other parts of Brazil. It never forgot its identity, it just sort of built around it. So that's why Porto Alegre doesn't feel like a museum city. It's always been a working city first, history second. Which is a bit of a shame for history buffs like me, trying to find out more about the city, how it became the city. But I'm going to try and have a look wander around the park, see if there's anything down there. I mean, according to Google Maps, that's a bank. It might be. It just feels so busy. Lots of people just running around, working. So this is the square. Let's see what there is around here. So I've just spent the last 5 minutes just sat down there, just looking at the maps, trying to get some sort of orienteering going on, work out what all these places are. But this is Alfandega Square. There's a market down there. It's surrounded by so many old buildings. So if I can get them right from this map, Santander Cultural Centre, and that's probably why I thought it was a bank, because of Santander. And then next to it is the memorial to Rio Grande do Sul, which is at this moment in time going through restoration. And I'm just going to have a little wander around the park itself. I mean, it doesn't look like it's been maintained, as it's like the centre of the historical side. You got a few statues around. Some guy says Barro do Rio Branco. He's got a symbol in his hand, so he must be important. You get the feeling that they're not used to tourists. And I don't think when you've got so many big areas within Brazil. Come further down south, it's probably not one of the things that Brazilians do, tourists do, especially when you've got places like Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo. Look at the statue of a guy on a horse. Got a lovely moustache there. You got someone just having a nice little bath. I mean, I'm not dissing the place, I'm not giving it a bad name, it just doesn't feel like it takes its tourism seriously. And down there is where the Riverside is, but there's a lot of buildings leading onto the waterway, so you can't really see it. And then you've got the Art Museum of Rio Grande do Sul. And it's free entry to get in. I think that's what entrada gratuita means. And might give it a miss. I mean, the last video I did of the park that was nearby the hostel just gave me a good feeling about the place, but coming into the centre, I'm not too sure. Not too sure. I mean, I'm glad I've come, I think. So I've just walked down from the square. It's still hot. And this is the Riverside. As I said, there's buildings along the way, but according to the map there's a ferry stop just down there, so I'm gonna have a little walk down that way. But in the centre of this road is 1835 to 1935, so it's a centennial monument. And then across the road you've got the sign that says Porto Alegre 253 years of what? But yeah, I'm gonna have a walk down there, ferry port. So I've been walking for about 10 minutes. Still lots of buildings against the waterfront. There's been a train just gone past. So I think that's a metro station, but I've just come across this catamaran tourists. So the sightseeing bus and the marine passenger terminal. All right, let's see if I can get closer to the river from here. Right, I'm hoping that I can see the river without having to pay for a ticket. Okay. Right, there's a gap in the fence there. I'm just going to go down. So I guess that's where you buy your tickets for your pleasure boats. A couple of tourist buses there. And this is the waterway. Now, because in the past, as I said, this was so strategic because of the rivers, and there's about 5 rivers that flow into this one. Oh, there's the ferry just over there, so I must go to the other side, obviously, but it's so far away. This waterway is so big. Wow. I mean, there's not a lot to see around here. And if this is a port with all the buildings there, doesn't look like they're being used much. And when you think like most waterways around the world are getting redeveloped into like office blocks and apartments and walkways, and it feels like Brazil hierarchy. And I'm not saying this as an expert, but you know, the big bosses in charge of tourism in Sao Paulo going, Porto Alegre, shall we update it? And then all of a sudden, oh look, there's a pigeon with one leg. That's more important. It's just a shame. Or maybe this is not a tourist city, it's an industrial one. Is this the way out? Yes, it is. So I've just come back out of the entry to the port area, and I just realised it's straight across the road from the marketplace, and there's the town hall. So it's all sort of central. And I know that I'll get some comments on this from people who come here probably, who say, but you didn't go to anywhere that was amazing, exciting. This is the historical centre. This is where it should all be happening. This is where you should have signs, even in Portuguese, to tell people what they are. Not just relying on Google Maps. So I'm back in the shade and I'm back in the square. I've had a walk around. There's not much to see of the city centre, the historical side. There's a lot of shops, a lot of people just chilling, and lots of people asking me for money. I'm not too sure about this place. I've seen it, I've been there. If someone says, have you ever been down to southern Brazil? I'll go, yeah, Porto Alegre. But if you've enjoyed this video, you might have, then all you got to do is press that like button. Tomorrow I will be leaving because I can't see me staying for any longer, and I will be heading to the last place before I hit the Uruguayan border. But until then, bye bye for now.